Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to the latest Monocle Webinar, Amplify Your Career. I'm Patrick Byrne, Senior Executive of People and Culture at Monocle, and I would like to extend a very warm welcome to you all this afternoon. By means of introduction, our guest speaker this afternoon, Michael Jordaan. Michael stepped down as CEO of FNB, one of South Africa's largest banks with a customer base of nearly 9 million in 2013, to pursue his passion of entrepreneurship. Michael led FNB to be named the world's most innovative bank in 2012. He was the 2013 Sunday Business Leader Time Award winner, and 2014 was awarded the All African Business Leader of the Year award. Michael co-founded and chairs the new mobile bank Zero, and he also heads up a private investment company, Montegray Capital, and has a strategic role in his 21 startup investments, which range from the new 5G RAIN network. I'd like to welcome you, Michael, our guest speaker this afternoon. You're very welcome, and how are you doing?
Well, always a little bit nervous, and I'll tell you why. If you don't respect your audience, then you're not going to be nervous. So I'm looking forward to the questions you've got to pose, and let's get on with it.
Yeah, look, great to have you. Look, I don't think you can see there, obviously it's good to have a bit of nerves, but very much just a chat and getting your insights and, and how the audience can, amplify their career and getting some key insights from you, Michael. So we really appreciate your time and very much welcome to Monocle.
It's my pleasure. Thank you. Thank you, Patrick.
So I suppose now that we better understand your professional bio, maybe you might start by sharing a little bit about your personal background, where you came from.
Okay, so Patrick, I'm really just a very ordinary guy. I grew up in a pretty ordinary, leafy suburban neighborhood. I'm a self-confessed nerd. As a kid, my best friends were mostly books. And books were also my biggest influence. I think I've always admired entrepreneurs. And my first business was actually breeding rabbits for the local pet shop, because rabbits, breed like rabbits. I'm inspired by everyday people. I like people who have attitude and energy. I'm not inspired by big names or reputations. And I suppose if you ask me about fun, for me, fun is the feeling that you get after, but not during exercise. Or it's when you laugh with mates, or it's when you watch your kids enjoy yourself. So for me, most of life is better when you add red wine.
Oh, excellent. And I suppose, Michael, what has influenced the person you have become today?
I'm not quite sure. I've always wanted to be successful, I suppose, but in a way that makes a difference to the world, in a way that you can leave a mark and make things a little bit better. And as a kid, you don't really know what that means. You kind of want to think you're special and you want to make a difference. And then life serves you opportunities and you try and take them. I think that's how simple it is.
Yeah, no, 100%. I suppose going back to the early days, what was your career ambition, at an early age? Did you know that you wanted to kind of be, within the banking world or, an entrepreneur, a lot of people probably tuning in, maybe students, trying to figure out where they go in their careers at this day and age,
So Patrick, something in me always wanted to be a banker. I think the reason for that is it seemed to be at the center of the economy, and that kind of intrigued me. And it also seemed to be at the center, and therefore it was intellectually stimulating, so you could do something with it if you had an intellect. But I think truthfully, at that stage, I didn't really know what happens in banks beyond like a branch and maybe beyond the cash teller. It was only much later that I discovered that.
Yeah. And I suppose in terms of that kind of journey, who were your heroes or role models that you looked up to while developing yourself in terms of career-wise?
There's an interesting quote by Charlie Munger. Charlie Munger is the business part of Warren Buffett. They're both billionaires and have done incredibly well in life. And Charlie Munger says the following. He says that in his whole life, he hasn't known any wise people who didn't read all the time. None, zero. So for me, if you ask me about role models, it actually was autobiographies. So real people
Cool.
that I could access via the books that they wrote. So autobiographies actually gave me access to a range of role models. And if I read history books, it gave me access to a range of heroes. You know, that was 80% of it. When it came to real life, I tend to make mentors out of most people that I worked with, because it's quite amazing how helpful people can be if you ask them nicely and your intent is to learn. Because most people actually love to share their skills. It's what they're good at and they want to share.
Yeah, and in terms of there, you spoke about, you know, reading and stuff like that, but is there anyone that sticks out for you in terms of those heroes, this modern day heroes that, you know, you go to?
You know, it would be so easy to give you a big name. I mean, as a South African, you'd say someone like Nelson Mandela, who's changed our country, whose spirit of forgiveness, you know, had it not been for him, we would have been in a civil war. So it's not that I'm not, you know, deeply impressed and motivated by those individuals. But the important thing for me is that you can get mentorship from so many more people around you. And I would say, don't fall for the Hollywood principle. Don't fall for the big names. Don't think that you're only going to get mentorship from somebody who's been made famous in the press. Mentorship is around you. It's staring you in the face by the people who have a great attitude all around you. So my advice would be, have many mentors, not just one. Embrace good things in all the people around you.
Yeah, look, at a great point, Michael. I think in this day and age, you know, you look at, you know, not just mentors, you look at role models, you know, role models who you see in the working world and, you know, sporting world and every day and age. And I think you're right, you know, you must look at people within the working environment. People stand out, you know, and I remember myself going through my career, looking at people with certain attributes and saying, you know, that person has got a really cool way of dealing with people. That person has got a very humane way of, you know, interacting with people. Or that person's got a really great way of, you know, communicating in meetings. And you take little snippets of everything you can from those successful people and put it into your repertoire and obviously build out and develop your own skill set. And I think that's the key in terms of identifying those mentors and role models within this day and age, right?
But Patrick, that's exactly right. And I suppose if you can be selective like that, you also realize that not everyone is perfect. I say you must never meet your heroes. So sometimes you build someone up, one individual, and you meet them. And when you realize that in many ways they're also ordinary, you're likely to be disappointed. So it's far more realistic to do exactly what you're saying, which is pick up those things that impress you about a whole range of different people, learn what you can from many people. After all, no one is smarter than any single person. And that's been my approach to mentorship as well.
Yeah, look, a great point. And I think, you know, in terms of that, just to give you an example, like my a boss in my previous company, previous role, you know, very busy, but always made time for people, you know. And it's the same with, you know, people at Monocle and, you know, our current executive team, making time for people and not being afraid to share some insights and developing people, you know, and spending the time to get to know them, not just in a work environment, you know, how are things going outside of work? How are you going, you know, with actual, you know, your interests and, you know, getting to know the person more holistically. I think that's the key thing as well.
Now, Patrick, the interesting thing is, I mean, that's a great example, and you in the position of HR, but in very few instances when you recruit people, do we test or interrogate their helpfulness. What you're talking about is helpfulness. We look at all the functional capabilities and when people are good at their job, but helpfulness is such an important attribute to make the whole business grow and to make people around you grow. So I do believe that people inherently have that. I said earlier, people want to share their skills and help other people, but some people don't. And I actually believe there's less of a role for them in the right type of corporate environment.
Yeah. Is there someone in your kind of career who has kind of successfully helped you and brought you through? Someone who you look up to as a, you know, I suppose a role model or a professional mentor?
Look, I mean, I've been so lucky to have been exposed to so many people that I admire. At the same time, I had no formal mentor-mentee relationship. You know, I know this discussion that we're having is about mentorship. I'm maybe like the outsider or, you know, kind of a different group here. My real thing is I was just privileged to work for a range of some great people. Of course, someone like Paul Harris, who was the MD of R&B, comes to mind. I was his personal assistant for some time, and that was great. I've learned so much from him. But more generally, in my case, it was about observing and learning from as many people as possible. And it was not a separate relationship. It was always as part of just doing my job.
Oh, excellent. Just for the audience, if you do have any questions that you'd like to pose to Michael, please just pop them in the chat, and we will take some kind of questions during the actual webinar, and then obviously at the end we'll have some Q&A as well. Michael, you were exceptionally young when you became CEO of FNB. You know, how did you manage the initial pressure of taking on such a kind of a massive role?
Look, Patrick, I can say it now. I couldn't admit it at the time, but when I got the job, I was incredibly unsure of myself, and I probably made many rookie mistakes. For example, when things went well, you know, you don't just make mistakes when things go wrong. When things went well, I think one of the mistakes I made was that I was so keen that the board and other stakeholders were going to associate their success with me. And when things went wrong, I was so quick to try and point out to everybody that it wasn't me that made the mistake. You know, it was X or Y or this type of person. And it was only later on that I learned that a true leader would do the exact opposite of that. In other words, what a true leader does is when things go well, you give away credit to the performers. And when things go wrong, that's when you take it onto yourself and you say, I take accountability for this mistake. Of course, you deal with it later with the individuals concerned, but you do so in private. You don't use the public forum to point fingers at them. So I suppose those type of things make you the type of leader that people actually want to work for. But these type of things don't come naturally when you first appointed.
And how did you figure that out? How did you prepare for yourself for the challenge? Because obviously, you're rolling and kind of a lot of things coming your way. And as you said, preparation is key, but you can't prepare yourself in some instances, you know. But what did you do to get yourself through that journey?
Look, I was fortunate, and I was fortunate in the sense that I've been CEO of a number of different business units before the time. So each these little business units are little steps towards then ultimately taking over a big bank, and then back again to what I do now, which is back a lot of small businesses. I think the point I want to make is studying cannot give this to you. You know, you can have whatever academic qualification you want, and it can allow you to conceptually think about these things. Studying can allow you maybe to think clearly, and it may allow you to make more correct decisions because of the knowledge that you have. But leadership is different. The role of leadership, and this is, you know, possibly kind of against conventional wisdom, but the role of leadership is not to make good decisions. The role of leadership is to facilitate good decision making. That's a crucial difference. And that you can only really learn in practice.
Yeah, so great advice. And hopefully lots of people who are tuning in and listening to the audience can pick up on some of those key things. You know, some questions that are coming in there, Michael. I think, you know, would you say people skills came naturally to you, or was it something you had to actively work on?
I like people personally. I think it's people who give me energy, and it's the same in your personal life, same in business life. There's an incredible excitement about surrounding yourself with people when you're a leader that are better than you. And even if you're not a leader, you know, you want to work with people who are better than you. You know, you want to, that's the thing that's going to make you grow far more than whatever industry, whatever brand you join. It's about people. So I suppose I was fortunate to recognize that early on. I'd like to add one more thing to that, and that is that a lot of people want to get ahead in corporates, and clearly they see a hierarchy and they want to climb the hierarchy. And quite often that hierarchy involves managing more and more and more people. And yet the contradiction is that they actually just want to do well in their careers. Their passion isn't to manage people. And I would say then rather focus on a technical role where your professional skills can do well. Because if you want to manage people, you must have a passion for making them grow. Because if they grow, obviously you're going to do well. But that's got to be your passion. And I think people as human beings intuitively understand if you're just using them so that you can get in your role, or whether you're in that role as a leader to really help the people around you.
Yeah, 100%. I think that's awesome advice. And exactly what you said, you know, a lot of people, you know, in this day and age, and even kind of students will ask advice and, you know, how do you go down the right career path? And my advice always is, you know, you don't necessarily choose, you know, the company or like that. You choose the people and the environment that you can really see yourself in, you know, the values that it shares. And, you know, that's one thing that I've been very fortunate with Monocle. You know, we share kind of a very camaraderie kind of Monocle togetherness, you know, and, you know, it's the people we surround, like-minded people who are not afraid to work hard, but, you know, have fun and enjoy it, and as I said, get out and be part of the cultural activities as well, you know. So it makes it very special.
But it's that simple, and it sounds kind of empty if you don't really get it, but life is all about people. And actually, maybe apart from your family, you can choose people, you can choose your mates, you can choose who you work with, and it makes such a massive difference. So rather choose, you know, to be with the people that give you energy, that motivate you, that take you somewhere else. It's so much more important than kind of just thinking about your career from your own narrow perspective.
Yeah, 100%. If you think back to, you know, the last 18 months, you know, and what's happening in the world, and it just makes it even more relevant, you know, it's that people you surround yourself, the daily interactions, whether they be virtually, and having people that you can bounce things off and get you through the day. I think that's been massive in terms of, you know, making sure we get out of this kind of pandemic, you know, which is great. I suppose in terms of your kind of your own career, professional development and goals, how have you been able to prioritize them and, you know, I suppose maintain and manage a work-life balance, Michael, you know?
Sure. So in terms of priorities, I wish I could say I had priorities and I planned according to them. Frankly, it was much, much more haphazard than that.
Yeah.
So in my case, I just went from, you can call it opportunity to opportunity, or as it looked at the time, from obstacle to obstacle. Because running a business or being an entrepreneur is all about overcoming obstacles. And you actually need to have some sense of joy out of solving difficult problems. And if you have that, if you like encounter obstacle and you get a joy out of solving it, then your career will be able to take care of itself.
Yeah, pretty much. What is your approach, Michael, been to successfully developing people within the companies that you have worked for, you know?
So it has everything to do with your intent. And I come back to, now, Patrick, I apologize here, you run human resources, right?
Yeah.
I think sometimes people think human resources are there to exploit, like we exploit other physical resources. And actually, your intent with people should be the other way around, which is not to exploit them, but to grow them. And if you grow people using results just as a benchmark, and you say, hey, you've done well according to this target, good for you, or you haven't done so well, what can I do to help you become better? It inverts the whole process. But your intent is not to get results through people. Your intent is actually to grow people using those results. So this was also something that I don't think was immediately intuitive to me, but over time you realize that's by far the most important thing, is to understand that those people have their dreams, they have ambitions, and if you can set them up for success and they are successful, you will be better as a leader. But it's about them in the first instance and what you can do to make them grow and be successful.
Yeah, 100%, Michael. And yeah, if you look at the ever-evolving world of HR, about a year ago, we transitioned from what we'd call a traditional kind of human resources kind of team into more of a people and culture team, where we want to make the main focus around our people and making sure that culture plays a massive part of Monocle, you know, and obviously the emphasis on people in the last, 2 years is massive. I suppose in your viewpoint, how important is culture in terms of building that very dynamic and successful company?
Look, it's simple. It's the only thing. I mean, culture eats strategy for breakfast. Culture eats execution for breakfast.
I like
it's
that.
all about culture. Yeah.
Yeah. Is there anything specifically that you have looked at in any of your companies that just stands out for the way that you do things, that makes you very proud of, some of the companies and to be part of them?
Look, I've mentioned execution.
Yeah.
I think we live in a world where intellect is important and ideas and creativity and innovation is very important. We know that. It's because the world's changing and we need to change with it. But I think one of the underestimated things is the ability to take ideas and turn them into reality. I think in our country, that's a problem. We have very grand plans about what needs to happen, but it fails at the coalface. And it's the same in the business environment. We take too long to do things. So personally, if I had to choose someone, and there are many candidates, I would look at the execution track record of that individual.
Okay. And I suppose when it comes to, the audience and people tuning in here to get some insights on, how they can amplify their career, what advice would you give to kind of young professionals when they're trying to identify great career opportunities in this day and age?
Yeah, I'm going to quote here. It's easier to resort to some of these quotes. So apparently, the Facebook CEO, Sheryl Sandberg, was looking for advice from the then Google CEO, Eric Schmidt. And his words were, he said, if you offered a seat on a rocket ship, don't ask what seat, just get on. So obviously the important thing is you've got to find your rocket ship. And you may have many definitions of what that rocket ship is for you, but for me, the most important way to judge that rocket ship or any career opportunity is who you will be working for and with, because that trumps everything. It trumps industry, it trumps brand. It's about those people.
Yeah, back to the people element as well. And in terms of, if you had one piece of advice for, say, future leaders who are currently, trying to kind of manage people, what would it be in this day and age?
To manage people. Look, first of all, I would also see this, are they really interested in people? Why are they in that position? Because I do think a lot of people are in those leadership positions because they want to go up the totem pole themselves.
Yeah, back to that,
people, you've got to have a passion for people. You've got to enjoy it when they succeed. You've got to enjoy it when they surprise themselves by achieving more than they even thought they could. That's the joy of people. Yes, as a secondary kind of impact of that, you may do well as the leader of the team, but don't use them to do that. Kind of have your passion out of people. I mean, the best way I can explain this is if you're a parent and you have kids and you care about their school marks, you don't use your kids so that they can get good school marks. They are just a way of measuring how well your kids are doing, or in sport or anything else. So it's the same type of approach that you have as a leader. Is use your team so that they could get sales results or cash flow or kind of profit. You want them to do well as individuals, and then all the magic happens from there. So to answer your question, the basic thing is, do you have a passion for people? If not, in today's world, there are many other job opportunities where, as a functional specialist, you can do well. Pursue those rather. Don't think that you've got to manage people to do well in this world. They are distinctly different things.
Yeah, awesome piece of advice. And I think it goes to, the industry as well. A lot of people will look at, okay, where should I go? What type of industry, and I always say to people, well, what are you passionate about? If you're passionate about banking, then go into a company that is, going to be in the heart of banking, the likes of Monocle. If you want to be a consultant, look at where we're going to focus, and then you can be in the heart of banking with massive change projects. If it's a different direction, then associate yourself with those companies and go and find that career path. There's no point in, at the end of the day, you want to be a teacher and being in a different kind of a corporate world. Follow your passion, follow your dream. I'm a firm believer in life is too short. You really do need to do stuff that you feel fulfilled with. You close down the end of the day, have you put in your your solid effort? You know, not every day is going to be ideal. Not every company in the world is going to be ideal. But if you can, you know, say I've given it my all, and I've progressed myself and I've developed myself a bit more today, and I've, you know, brought my company forward a bit, then, you know, you're successful in terms of getting to the next step, you know.
Patrick, the only thing I would add to that, because I think it's an important addition to follow your passion, is it's got to align with what you're good at, right?
Good, yeah.
Because, you know, you can't just say, look, I'm passionate about landing a rocket on Mars. There's got to be some core skills, and also got to align with what the market wants. But I'm fundamentally agreeing with you. You know, don't pursue something that you're not passionate about, but just also make sure that you're good at what you're passionate about and that the market needs it. And if you can align those three things, you'll be successful whatever you do.
Yeah, no, 100%. And it goes down to those, a couple of things that are shining through, you know, people and passion. And, you know, I look at kind of different industries out there, you know, and, you know, when you go and you spend time in the likes of a hospital and you see the doctors and the credible nurses, and, you know, you wonder, how did they do it? You know, on a day-to-day basis, you see they're in 7 to 7 and they are running ragged and they're working hard, and it comes down. And I even have been chatting to them recently, and I said, and it comes down to a passion, you know, something that they deeply care about, their patients. Yes, some of them get paid well, but at the end of the day, they take it on them as that's what they love doing, you know, and that's what got them into kind of the career in the first place. Yeah. Michael, I suppose in terms of, you know, motivation is key when we speak to these kind of things and developing your career, you know. You're not always going to have the days where you're highly inspired and motivated. You know, what would you kind of has been your strategy in keeping yourself kind of motivated, and then keeping people within your workplace motivated as well?
Look, I suppose I'm lucky that I've kind of always been self-motivated. It's not, you know, you've got your down moments, but kind of as a dual rule, you want to be self-motivated. I wouldn't know how to motivate someone who isn't interested in winning, because business is a game. It's also a game, and maybe it's the biggest game of all, right? It's the game right now that influences our economy and our society. So, you know, I've generally worked with people who are self-starters, self-motivators, and are interested in winning. And then it's more a question of how do we make sure that that motivation of winning can be aligned with a strategy, with a team, with where we are going. So I know this may not going to be the kind of the correct academic answer, because there must be many theories about how to motivate people. If you can, my choice would always be to start with self-starters who are intrinsically motivated.
In terms of that, you know, you've obviously worked with a lot of people, but how do you identify talent? So are you sitting around a meeting and you look at someone and you say, wow, that person, he needs to be on my team, or, you know, that person is going to be an exceptional person that we need to be involved in this business? Is there any tricks to the trade in terms of that, or is it just something you go on your gut feeling? And, or, you know, as you said, I think at a previous chat call, you said, you know, the best piece of advice you can give to someone is don't be lazy. You know, what is it that you have that makes you say that's developing the talent of a person? You know.
So you know, I wouldn't say I've got like all the tricks and I know how to do it. And I mean, Patrick, you've probably been in many more interview situations than I've been, and there are a lot of questions that you can ask. I mean, I suppose what you want to do is you just want to really engage authentically with individuals, and you want to say, you know, who is the real you? What is the real situation here? Why could this really work? And I suppose there are ways to kind of get authentic answers. For example, instead of asking somebody, what are your weak points? You say, if I happen to phone some people you've worked for before, and I ask them about your negatives, what would they tell me? And that's just kind of an interesting conversation, because people are then forced to be more authentic, because you could really be phoning them, and they kind of get a chance to defend themselves. But the real thing is, how would they then respond to that? So that would be my first point, is be authentic. And then the other thing would be to look beyond the obvious. Look beyond somebody who's dressed nicely and arrives on time and says all the right answers with the right words, and try and find someone who can even be difficult. I actually don't mind difficult people, provided they are truly competent. And it comes back to execution or implementation again. People who have some track record of getting things done. We live in an environment where people are very smart, they've studied very well, they can present themselves very well. I think the world has a shortage, a gap of people who get things done, the execution gap or the implementation gap. So it's very, very important to surround yourself with people who, in the end, can execute.
Yeah, look, and I think the execution is key. You're right. There's no point in having everything else if you cannot get the job done and you're action orientated. I think you mentioned that in a previous conversation as well. And being part of those organizations. You go back to those career choices. Do you want to be in those larger organizations? Do you want to be in a medium firm or a smaller firm where you're going to have to roll up your sleeve and get stuck in? And that's in essence our motto at Monocle. It tends to be we're action orientated. We are the executioners in terms of consultants, and not afraid to roll up our sleeves. And even to a certain extent, our senior executives being very hands-on in terms of making sure that projects are delivered and the execution. And also that everyone is up to speed in terms of communication. So yeah, some great piece of advice there, Michael. Really appreciate that. I suppose just going away from the career and getting a bit to know a bit more about Michael. What would you say has been your greatest achievement in life so far?
Oh, okay, it must be my kids. And the way I can say that is I'm most happy when they're most happy. So
yeah.
But the interesting thing, I suppose, about that is you can't do that on your own. This is where your partner is so important. And maybe the symbolism of that is that's how life works. It's not about you on your own. It's about what you can do with people, within teams at work, with mates, etc. Life's about people.
Oh, great. And I suppose in this day and age, I read recently that, a bit about you outside of kind of work and stuff like that. I'm not sure if it was true, but a comment saying a lazy mountain biker. What kind of interest, what do you keep yourself busy with?
My mates who I cycle with will tell you I'm not lazy, I'm very lazy.
Okay.
I would like to get out there more often, but mountain biking's great. I'm lucky to live in a great winelands area. We have lots of mountains here, lots of great paths to do, lots of wine to be drunk afterwards. So I enjoy that. When I do that on my own, by the way, I also love to put my AirPods in my ears and listen to either music or good books. It's like a great way to keep yourself informed and be out in nature and you kind of get physically active and to have an excuse to eat and drink well afterwards. So that would be my advice. Kind of get out there, even if you're lazy as me.
Yeah, good to have an excuse to eat and drink, as they say. Just on that topic, a couple of great questions coming in. You mentioned about reading and stuff like that. Is there any kind of books that you would recommend that anyone should read?
I've got a tip. I get asked about books often, and it's actually pretty difficult to say these are my top 5 or top 10. But the tip I would impart is when I'm with people who I like or respect, I often ask them, give me some of the books that you've read. I write them down and I order them immediately, either in physical form or on a Kindle or in audiobook form, so that I have them in the reserve. And that means at any given time, I've always got books to choose from. So I read a wide variety of books. Sometimes it's fiction, sometimes it's history. I like to read about the future. I like autobiographies, but it's just important to have that list. So if you're going to splurge on anything, books is actually the most kind of affordable extravagance that you can have. So splurge on books, buy those books. Doesn't mean you have to read them right there and then, but kind of just have them available either next to your bed, on your Kindle, on your earphones when you go for the mountain bike ride. And you'll be better informed than anyone out there who reads, let's say, the news every day. Because the news isn't really informative, it just kind of grabs your dopamine levels. What you want to get is insight, and you get that from reading.
Yeah, no, 100%. And I suppose I know you're the mad passion about reading, and I believe you recently read The End of Money, which was written by our CEO, David. what was your view in the book? What did you think of it?
Look, I was privileged to read it because it's not published yet, so I kind of read the manuscript, which was a great privilege, and be able to give a little bit of input. It immediately drew me in. It's had some great anecdotes.
Cool.
I suppose disturbingly, the book kind of explains how the broader public is losing faith in our banking and monetary systems. Now, so I ran a bank and I studied monetary systems. But basically what's happening in the world is we're printing too much money. And this isn't a good thing for the free market system. It means the international financial system is fragile, it's over-indebted, and maybe most important from a social perspective, it's made inequality worse. It's maybe the big issue of our time. So my conclusion after having read this great book, which I encourage other people to read as well, is that we need simpler banking business models. I'm involved with a bank called Bank Zero. Very excited about it, by the way, but it promotes saving, not debt. It makes payments free. These are the type of things that we need to restore confidence amongst the public in banking. Because we don't do that, other things like cryptocurrencies or decentralized finance are sure to take over.
Yeah, no, really appreciate your insight, and on behalf of obviously David and the team at Monocle, thanks for taking the time to read the book. We really valued your insights, and for anyone on the audience listening, the End of Money is due to be released next week. In fact, we had our own virtual launch internally this week where David shared the insights and the story behind the book, written by himself and Chris and Robin. And everyone very excited and looking forward to that next week. So we've got a lot of events planned. So there's a LinkedIn page, and also you can follow things on with Monocle as well. Some other questions coming in, Michael. In terms of any tips or techniques that you use to maybe manage any disappointments or setbacks in your career?
Let me think about that. I don't have. You may have gathered, I'm not kind of formalistic in the sense that I've got this technique to do this or that, but I've handled setbacks. It's so important to have your system around you, right? To have a partner that understands the challenges you're going through, to have mates who understand it. In other words, to make sure that your rest of your life is able to handle it. You've got to physically be in good condition, kind of look after yourself with health and exercise. Now, these things are difficult because to achieve in life, you have to make trade-offs. There's no such thing as a work-life balance if you want to do really well. I'm not saying you've got to work like there's a Chinese thing about is it 996? You work from 9 o'clock in the morning till 9 o'clock in the evening, 6 hours a day. It doesn't have to be that, but it's not going to be 8 to 5 like we have it in the Western system. And because of that, sometimes some of the stress things fall on your friends and your family or on your health. You don't go to the gym because you've got something to do. So it's about getting some work-life balance, but it's never going to be perfect.
Yeah, and I suppose kind of leading on from that, did you discover that what are your natural kind of blind spots, and how did you navigate them through your career?
So the thing about blind spots is that you've got to recognize that you don't always come up with the right decisions yourself. This is the whole thing about leadership isn't accountable for making great decisions. Your role is to facilitate great decisions. And that means when you sit in any kind of meeting and then there's a discussion that's happening, it's not about your idea winning, it's about the best idea winning. I mean, if the most fundamental kind of mantra I believe in is the best idea must win. And then it doesn't matter if you have blind spots, if you have that type of attitude. And it doesn't matter if your team tells you it's a stupid idea or anyone tells you it's a stupid idea, because it doesn't matter if it's your idea as long as the best idea ends up winning. So I think all to that is admitting all of us have our blind spots. All of us can't come up with the best ideas all the time. As long as the best idea wins, that's absolutely fine. So take your ego out of it and make sure it's a meritocratic situation.
Yeah. I suppose in your current kind of situation now, you're obviously classed as an entrepreneur, different companies and stuff like that, But did you always kind of know you wanted to become an entrepreneur? Or is this something that you just found that you've evolved into over your many years of experience?
Look, I like the role model of an entrepreneur because it was creative. You create something, right? It was just something out of the ordinary. It was nearly like from where I was, it was rebellious. You could either go into like a straight career or you could be entrepreneurial, so it's creative. And it applied to a whole variety of things. And it seemed to me that if you could also use intellect. And I'm kind of fascinated by this idea of competing but outthinking. So even in like a game of cricket or a game of rugby, rugby can be very, very hard, and you have to tackle, you have to use physical attributes. Ultimately, I'd like to think if you have a proper game plan, you can outthink the opponent. And I always thought that entrepreneurship was like that. I mentioned earlier, I did a number of initiatives. My first one was breeding rabbits. So there were many, many more of these things. I just love that you could do that you could take risks, and that you could ultimately get rewarded in doing it. I mean, if I could go back to kids now, I would just tell them it's not about entrepreneurship per se, but it's about taking risks. Take more risks. No one ever told me you must take risks in life, but the quality of your life is going to be directly correlated with your propensity to take risks. If you take no risk, you have a terrible life. You live in one home forever. You won't fall in love. You won't cross the street. You won't drive in a fast car. That's fine, but your life's not going to be great. Or you can travel the world and meet the girl of your dreams and eat great foods and learn different languages and start businesses. And your heart's going to be broken, and sometimes things are going to go wrong, but you can have so much better quality of life. So anyway, that's where entrepreneurship and the love of entrepreneurship came for me.
Oh, excellent! Yeah, great overview and analogy of it. What does your typical days look like nowadays? Now that you are an entrepreneur, you obviously moved out of the very structured environment of the banking environment, and now into more of a free kind of, strategic kind of role. So, day to day, what do you spend most of your time doing, Michael?
So look, I've got to say, I'm like very excited about Bank Zero. It's the opposite of a large corporate bank. But I do believe that the world is changed by small teams of committed people, are the only groups that have changed the world ever. And in this case, the team at Bank Zero are making banking free, but also innovating on a whole range of payment innovations that we haven't seen anywhere else in the world. So it's a tiny team, but watch the space. So this is what I do is I'm not operationally involved. I like to be strategically involved. I like to be involved in kind of getting the message out there. It's work, by the way, in the conventional sense of it. I drop my kids at the school, but I'm in the office at 7:30 in the mornings. I typically only leave at 6 at night. But I'm in the fortunate position that it's more creative, and I can structure my day according to the things that I want to do, which is often learning, reading, thinking. And then, when people ask for some advice or wisdom, I hope to be able to give some of it to them.
No, 100%. And like you were this evening on this webinar. I think in terms of, young professionals these days, Michael, what would you kind of say to them to motivate them to stay, within the South African kind of landscape?
So it's tough, right? I mean, we look up and we know that so many things can be managed so much better. So let's just acknowledge that. What excites me about this place, apart from the people, and we have wonderful people in this country. I mean, we meet them every day. Don't read the newspapers and think everybody's like what you see in the newspapers. Look around you. South Africans are like great people. The majority of them want the right things to happen, and they want to look after their kids. And here's the thing. Every problem that you see in society has a potential business solution. It's a wonderful place for entrepreneurs. It's a better place than going to America or to Europe, whatever, because we have these problems and we haven't solved them yet with business solutions. So whether it's Eskom that doesn't give you power, there are solar solutions and battery solutions and wind solutions that can do that now. We have the entrepreneurial freedom to do it. Maybe potholes in the roads, but businesses have fixed them and they get brand recognition out of it. There are health problems, but people are solving them because I don't know, you can do telehealth medicine and so on. It is an innovator's or an entrepreneur's dream. So I do personally get a kick out of solving problems. So I'd much rather be at the place where, let's say, the puzzles or the Sudoku or, are harder, because it gives me so much more fun to solve them. If that's not your thing, if you want kind of a stable career where every 3 years, if you do well, you get up another rank in some big company, maybe this isn't the place for you. But I just think that's taking less risk, and it's going to lead to a lower quality of life, So choose quality of life, choose higher risks, choose solving problems, and life, I believe, will reward you immeasurably.
Yeah, look, I think you hit the nail on the head there. Quality of life is everything, and being able to maintain a proper work-life balance, we were alluding to it earlier. We're out early, 5:45 this morning with the Monocle Golf Club, and having an early kind of 9 holes this morning and some breakfast, and just coming together to kick off the day in a great way, and it sets you up for the day ahead, and little things like that, I suppose just speaking about, what has made you successful and getting the real resonating of you. Obviously, you worked hard throughout your career, and it's a massive quality. But is there any habits that you've formed over time that you has seemed very important in getting to you to where you are today?
I'm going to come back to this one. It's people. It's people thinking with them. And when I say authentic, it's even when they have not done well, or listening to them when they say you haven't done well. Taking the time to listen, to learn, to give feedback, and to receive feedback. So one of the things that can happen in a leadership position is that you start taking yourself too seriously. I think it nearly comes with the territory, whether it's political, business, or any form of leadership position.
Yeah.
So I wouldn't say this is like a trick. I think it's a fundamental principle that you mustn't take yourself so seriously. You must be able to laugh at yourself, and you must understand that it's not about you. It's about the fact that you happen to be in this position. And the position, while it may seem powerful, you actually have to make sure that you set up the people around you for success, and then you have to give them the opportunity to listen to input. If you do that, whatever happens to you, you're much stronger, because you can kind of share your problem with a team. And so often they will come up with a better solution than you could ever have thought of yourself.
Yeah, 100%. Someone asked me this question recently in an interview, and I thought it was a great question. If you could go back to your early days of the career, what would you have told yourself back then in terms of, any piece of advice you would have given to yourself?
Patrick, I think about that often, because you learn so much more. I learn so much more every single day. I worry about where I am today, and what I'll be telling myself kind of 10 years from now. Maybe the one single bit of advice would be around decision making, and that is that you don't have to make lots and lots and lots of good decisions all the time. You've got to make a couple of really great decisions. The important, great decisions are the ones that count. Yeah. And if I can give you advice, it's more about avoiding bad decisions than it is about making good decisions. And those bad decisions, I think, are the ones you make when you're emotional. And it could be positive emotion as well. You say, right, we're going to do this because you're too positive, or you're negative and therefore you decide you're not going to do something. So I would say avoid bad decisions. And the way to do it is don't make decisions when you're emotional. And then you only have to make a couple of really good decisions, and you're going to do well in life.
Yeah, no, 100%. In terms of, talking about that entrepreneurship as well, one of the questions is coming in: how do you sell your ideas and convince people to see your point of view? Any tips that you can share with the audience on that?
I often wish I were better at that. I think there must be techniques that proper salespeople can do much better than me. I don't necessarily think I'm the best person to say I'm good at sales, other than this, and that is to be truly enthusiastic about your product. So if you gave me a bad wine and told me to sell it to you, I would suck at it. But if I truly believed that this was one of the greatest wines in the world, by the way, I think we are making you in Stellenbosch. I think I could do a much better job. And it's the same whether you think it's a startup or a banking product. If you're truly enthusiastic about your product, if you're authentic about it, then it's just so much easier because it's not a technique or a tip. It really comes from your belief. And that type of enthusiasm, I think people intuitively feel. So it's about being real.
Yeah, 100%. I suppose, Michael, you know, you've shared some great insights there, and you know, I think if anything I can take away from tonight is, you know, we're talking about people, and you know, you're being authentic, and you know, it comes to that even, you know, selling things, you know, be enthusiastic and be authentic, you know, and believing in that is a great thing. In terms of yourself, you know, what does the future hold for Michael Jordaan? What lies ahead, as they say?
Yeah, so I've got all these startups. I'm excited about kind of RAIN bringing data costs down. I've got you know, a lot of emerging fintech stuff that I'm doing. I really am excited about Zero. I think it's a great team, small team. You know, like to show some of the big banks what you can do with a tiny team and a frugal setup and low costs and bringing benefits to customers. I'm really hoping to get kind of the word out there. Generally, for me, it's about solving problems. If you asked me to make an investment in something I'm not passionate about, I don't know, I'm going to choose something, let's say mining. I know we need mining. I know we need those resources, but that doesn't give me great joy to do mining. But if you tell me I can solve an educational problem or an environmental problem and somehow make the world better, that's what I'd like to do. And I'd like to do it by backing businesses, by backing exceptional entrepreneurs where I can in South Africa, in Africa, and in the world. That gives me joy, and it's kind of my little way of like thinking it's making the world a little bit better. Oh,
awesome. And moving on to be a more determined mountain biker, I'm sure. You get rid of that lazy tag.
You sound just like the grief that my mates give me on the mountain bike. Be more determined.
Yeah, look, I say that when I was obviously signed up for the Stain City 25K that's coming up in a couple of weeks, so we'll see how that goes. I have to get a bit of training in first myself. Just one or two more questions, Michael, before we finish up. I suppose, you know, if you had to kind of put out what your 3 top values would be, what really resonates with you?
Okay, so I don't have this list that I can quickly recall them from, but I think kind of being authentic, then being a better version of yourself. Nearly all of life isn't about being yourself. You hear all these messages, be yourself. But, you know, we all have problems and mistakes. It's all about being a better version of yourself. That makes you a better leader and a better father, better everything. So it's all of life is kind of self-improvement. And then the final one is humor and laughter, which includes laughing at yourself. You know, if you've had a day where you didn't laugh, if you have kind of situations that kind of don't fill you with humor every day, I do think that is wasted. So kind of I'm saying authenticity, being better, and the odd bit of humor.
Yeah, look, something that you said there really resonated with me. And, you know, I think it was probably, you know, at the start of this year, you know, a couple of months ago when, you know, we were coming to that stage where everyone's working virtually, you know, and, you know, we had kind of difficulties and, you know, you get through your day. But I found that I had to get out and do some morning jogging, morning running, you know, and, you know, I'll share it now. I'm not a great runner. I'm a lazy runner. That's 100%. But I found that I needed to do it. I needed to get out there and actually do it and run along and you know, kind of think about what I wanted to achieve during the day, you know. And it kind of inspired me to say, well, what is everyone else thinking about, you know, what they're doing? And what you just said there was the title of an email that I sent to, you know, all my colleagues at Monocle was, you know, be the best version of yourself. And I think if that's one takeaway point from the webinar tonight, that people can take that away, no matter what it is, you know. And for me, it was like I had to get out and run to make myself get through more productive and be a better version of myself. And whether that's being a better father and a better person in terms of, you know, your colleagues and all that, you know. So everyone should probably look at it and say, how can they make themselves a better person? You know, what 1 or 2 takeaways they can take from tonight and then move it forward, you know. So key questions coming in around, just the pinnacle of your growth within the banking industry, how did you know you had reached that, or was it rather, time for you to pursue other opportunities that you stepped out of that kind of era?
So I mean, I'm smiling now because I don't think I've reached the pinnacle, and I don't even think I'm ready for it yet. The funny thing about getting older is you realize how little you know. You're full of confidence, like kind of early on, and you think you can change the world. Now I know, the more I know, the more I realize how little I really know. So I don't think if you ever reach the pinnacle, I just think you learn more every single day. I mean, maybe the positive where I'm now is you start adopting a more of a meta view, kind of a broader view, and you have a paradigm into which kind of certain things can fit into, and which you judge things. But I don't see it as a pinnacle yet, because it's still in creation. You constantly learn. You got these views, and then new facts come in, and you change your mind. So I would assume there are a lot of youngsters kind of looking at this. I can just tell you that the process of growing old becomes that you become less certain of yourself, even though you kind of know more. So good luck with that.
Yeah, look, I think very cool that you mentioned that. It's a continuous growth, I think, you're looking at, you can never reach that pinnacle unless you've achieved everything, and, you're starting out with more kind of, I suppose, career plans now at Bank Zero, and exciting times as well. So yeah, obviously we wish you the best of luck with that, and I'm sure it's going to be a great success, Michael. Just one last question that has come in, in terms of your performance at university. How much did that impact your career?
So I did well at school until the last years when I discovered girls, and that completely sidetracked me. So I can't say I was like a great scholar at school. And then at university, I did okay, and I passed everything until my third year, where I actually fell in love with economics, and I did quite well in economics, and got some degrees, cum laude, and so on. But really, in retrospect, I don't think it's that important to get those great marks. I mean, it does show enthusiasm and dedication and so on. I think the people who do well in life are the people who just at some stage really find something that we spoke about earlier, are passionate about, but maybe I want to define it differently, some problem that they really want to solve, and they throw themselves in a dedicated way into it. I also said that you learn a whole lot of skills at university and how to make better decisions. And let's say you study accounting, you can judge accounting statements better. But it doesn't necessarily teach you judgment. You learn judgment in practice. So the way I look at it, and Patrick, is university is an incredible privilege. It's a couple of years of your life where you meet such interesting people and you grow as a person and so on. But it's not real life, kind of real life is a very, very different way of doing things. And the best thing you can do in real life is to have completely the right positive attitude about it. I spoke earlier about winning, you want to win, and then if you got that attitude about winning, you can do incredibly well in life without any kind of tertiary education, because you can create the type of future that you want if you've got the right attitude.
Yeah, and exactly what you said. A great privilege in terms of my role. I got to visit many universities in South Africa, some of the best in the world. And meeting the students, and it obviously equips them for the start in terms of their career. But I think it's all about the company, and that transition from the university into a company is key. It can be tough, especially in the early days. In some cases you might, here's your armbands, go and sink or swim. And I think the nice thing about our graduate program at Monocle, the analyst graduate program, it enables the students to join. And we've got a very intense training program that is equipped over 10 to 12 weeks, where they'll do a lot of technical training and have insights shared by even David, our CEO, in terms of what is the real fundamentals of banking, and what is the heart of banking, and getting a greater understanding about what ticks in there, and not just that, critical thinking, and it kind of gives them that kind of buffer zone where it eases them into making sure that actually they're ready before joining, and whether it be the consulting landscape or working on projects and getting them up to speed. Because I think that's the key in any company. You don't want to be out of university and here you go. off to, this is the job, and day one.
But there's something special to be surrounded by people who really know what they're doing. That is the rocket ship. That's a privilege. And if they're willing to share, and it could be technical insights, but it could be life insights, I think that's a tremendous growth experience that you need to prioritize above a lot of other things, including remuneration and location and industry. It comes back to people. And if your attitude is right and you surround yourself with the right people, the world's going to be wonderful.
Yeah, look, when you say that, I think I'm very fortunate to have got on my rocket ship with Monocle. So I think a lot of people ask me, I've been 5.5 years at Monocle. What keeps you at Monocle? And it's simply surrounding yourself with the people, and the like-mindedness and the togetherness of the company and the ethos of carrying it forward and, not wrestle at our laurels and wanting to be better and more exceptional at what we do, Lastly, Michael, I'm just interested to know a little bit more about you personally. What's your favorite go-to music? Is there any, famous kind of music that you put on when you're trying to listen or, get yourself in the motivated mind zone?
So, Patrick, are you a parent? Have you got kids?
Yeah, I do indeed.
How old are they? Oh, okay.
They're young. They're young, yeah.
I've got teenagers, and the question kind of presumes that I have choice. But when you have teenagers, you have no choice. When I drive them to school or I drive them at night and so on, I listen to what they listen to, and I have no choice but to start liking it. So right now, I like all that type of music. I didn't think I would like rap before. Suddenly I like rap. I really, really try not to listen to country. But I've got a very broad music taste.
Oh, you just had a dagger in my heart there. I'm a massive country music fan, so yeah, big Garth Brooks fan. But we'll let you away with that.
No, sorry, Patrick. It sounds like Jolene, but okay. Other than that,
Yeah, when it comes to the kids, the most. You're right. We listen to everything from Baby Shark in my car to anything. You go with the flow. And same with the TV. Sometimes I try and put the cricket on for 2 minutes, and I get Dad. No, not this rubbish.
My oldest daughter has actually booked us tickets for a 21 Pilots concert in the UK next year, and I really just hope that we'll be going. So you'll see.
Oh, please God!
I'll be there dressed up in a 21 Pilots t-shirt.
No, awesome. And it's all about the experience. That'd be very cool. Favorite food? What's your go-to?
Sushi.
Okay, cool.
And interestingly, I mean, this is a dish I didn't even know existed when I was a student. But something about the Japanese way of eating, apart from the taste. I mean, I love the whole philosophy that you do all the work in the kitchen. You don't need to cut anything that's on your table, and you just eat all the morsels. So. Yeah, it could be sushi.
Yeah, no, awesome. Michael, look, it's been a pleasure speaking to you tonight. We really do value your time and the incredible insights that you've shared with everyone on the audience. And the feedback has been phenomenal through the comments that have been coming in. It's been a pleasure getting to know you. Hopefully, we can meet up in person someday when we come out of where we're at the moment. But we're making good progress. And thank you very much for your time.
It's a pleasure. If we meet up, before 12, it's for coffee, and after 5 it's for red wine.
Oh, it's always 5 o'clock somewhere, as they say. Another country song. For the audience members, thanks very much for joining us on this webinar. We've got another webinar that's coming up in the next couple of weeks. So please, obviously, follow the Monocle LinkedIn page for further details. As always, anyone interested in amplifying their career and joining the likes of Monocle, you can check out the website www.monocle.co.za and get in touch, reach out. And finally, don't forget about the End of Money, the book that is going to be, it's being published and obviously released next week. Get yourself a copy of it. Follow the Monocle LinkedIn page, the End of Money LinkedIn page, for further insights to that. Michael, have a wonderful evening. I know you're off to have some fun there.
I appreciate everyone listening. Thank you.
Thanks very much. Have a great evening, everyone. Stay safe, and thanks for joining. Bye-bye.